This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Oh boy, is this a long chapter.
Well, that's why we're only doing one.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. It was, I looked at that and was like, wow, that's a lot of pages. All right. Couple of POVs. Plus the next two chapters go together really well.
Yeah. Getting near the end of this book, so it's getting denser. We can't argue that we're still in the build-up anymore.
No. This is certainly the avalanche, Sander Lanch, Jordan Lanch, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
I think it's just how books work. I think it's just how books are structured at this point.
Yeah, but I think with Sanderson, there's a particular back end loading of this sort of stuff, right? He has very few accomplishments in the middle of his books, which sometimes makes them a little difficult to get through because there's this sort of middle where he's just setting up all of these things for what's going to be this really cool ending that you're going to be really excited about. But yeah. And he's gotten better about it in his later books. It's not quite as heavy back-ended, but you can see where this is certainly early on in his career where he's sort of like really carefully laying out his pieces, and then there's a mid game where everything's kind of moving and you don't really know why, and then there's this big end game, which is very exciting.
Yeah. And this chapter has a lot of really important conclusions that predate his setup of this book, right? You know, we've got Fael and Perrin negotiating with Elaine about the future of the Two Rivers. Like, that's been an inevitable conclusion or a collision ever since like book 4, right? Like, as soon as Perrin was like, I guess I'm the leader of this space now, it's like a conflict with the Queen of Andor was ordained.
I was gonna say, as soon as he put up the flag of Manetheren to distract from what he was actually doing,
that made it extra inevitable. Sure.
I believe that's the point when it was truly became inevitable that this conflict was going to happen.
Yeah, so that's, something that we've been needing to get to for a long time. And then also Elaida and her traveling ability making an impact in the Shan Chan institution. That,
yes,
it's a more recent addition to the plot, but it is not a Sanderson invention. That had to be addressed. You can't just have Elaida vanish forever. We need to have one more scene with her in the collar.
Okay, it's addressed, right? But then I sort of went looking through the Shan Chan plot, and at no point do they decide not to attack the White Tower.
I was wondering about that.
They decide to aid them in the last battle, but there's this gap where you kind of don't see Tuon for a minute, and then Matt's like, "Come on, help us out," and she's like, "Okay, fine." And I was really looking for the moment when she decided to not open gateways and wipe out the White Tower, and I don't see it anywhere.
Yeah, I was wondering about that when I read that section. I was like, wait, that doesn't happen. So she must decide not to or be convinced not to, and I assumed it was part of a negotiation with Rand. But if you're saying that you couldn't find it, then that was just not, because all the confrontations with Rand are pretty, massive.
Let's see. All right, so the next scene, Matt rescues her from her gray man. They spend the night together. Maybe at some point in that moment, he talks her out of it. But then we're in the last battle. And we have Rand doing his whole kneeling to the crystal throne to, fulfill the prophecy. So maybe, and then I guess possibly in that moment, she signs the dragon peace and decides to not, but she's going to honor that and not attack the White Tower. That's my best guess.
Well, I guess it might not even be a matter of deciding to not attack the White Tower so much as the chess moves just preclude it. If she's allied with the Dragon Reborn, she can't attack one of his strongest allies until, this present issue's dealt with and the strategizing's moved on. I feel like that should have been given a little bit more airtime for her to look to solution and be like, well, I guess we have to put those plans on ice. Huh.
Because she ends up coming to their aid after they're attacked, right?
Right. When the Sharans come in, then the Shan Chan are like, no, we're the people with the stupid S name in this continent.
Right. We're the weirdos who are going to attack you with the power, with enslaved channelers. God damn it. Don't copy our thing.
Yeah, the Shan Chan and the Sharans, we're gonna be tripping over our tongues when we get to those sections. It's gonna be worse than Egwene and Elaine.
What do you mean? I always get those right.
It's not literally one of the reasons I wrote to you guys in the first place to be like, can you please get the damn names straight? I will be a co-host on your freaking podcast just to get the names right more often.
It's funny how long ago that feels. That like, I know I still mess up the names, but I know which one's which now.
I think we're all better now than we were before this podcast started. I think we've all collectively gained some reflexes.
I've lost some too, though. It's been almost 9 years now. As in probably by the time this podcast comes out, it'll have been 9 years for sure.
Wild. Yeah. All right. So with that being said, should we actually start the chapter properly?
Yeah, let's, because you're going to cut most of that, right?
No.
Damn it.
It's all great banter.
Chapter 47, and our symbol is the Adam, because there's a lot of imprisoning the Aes Sedai, the former Amerlin.
Well, and like literally the POV with the Shan and the Damani is called the teaching chamber. Or she says that this is the teaching chamber.
Right. So that's all based around that scene. There's a couple of other scenes in this one too. But...
Yeah. For once, the symbol and the title are completely lined up.
Right. I always try and look for like, is there a cross reference with the teaching chamber? And I wonder if like the throne room could be considered a teaching chamber as well, right? In this first scene.
Well, but it's not really the throne room. It's the room off to the side. Right, where they actually retreat to have the discussion. The throne room is just the big public-facing thing, and then the actual chamber where the important decision happens is like more of a sitting room.
Right. So maybe that could be called, maybe that's like the teaching room or the teaching chamber as well, and that would be a nice little fun overlap between the two, if that was its nickname.
I think you're stretching, but I'm sure it's good for your back at your advanced stage.
How did you know? I'm just, I got to crack it every once in a while and really I got to come up with wild theories every once in a while or that muscle is just going to like atrophy.
Yeah, and we wouldn't want that.
Because come on, what's half the fun if not coming up with crazy headcanon?
It's true. I didn't really see a good like read-in chunk for this. It's very boring as an opening. The TLDR is that Fael and Perrin are riding up to the palace, kind of thinking about how that's gonna go. We get the great line from Galad that he's already caught up with Elaine, so he doesn't need to see her anymore.
I like
you
one.
autistic motherfucker.
Do you want to see your sister? No, we have had our conversation. We are good. I will go now. Yeah. Bye.
I have achieved the appropriate amount of interaction time for enrichment in my enclosure. I will not be needing another visit for another 6 months. Good to go. It's amazing. But yeah, otherwise it's just Fael being nervous and going over her plans for the umpteenth time as they approach the palace.
I would say there's one important thing. Grady tried to make a gateway to the Black Tower and could not, which means there is a dream spike there. So we know at this point, timeline matchup, right? That dream spike has been activated. The trap has been closed in the Black Tower.
Yeah, and Perrin is now experienced enough with dream spikes to be like, yeah, I'll go check it out tonight.
Right. Like, I'm sure there's probably a dome. Yeah.
Like, oh, Grady, that seems like a problem. I'll go fix it. I'll go do my dream thing, fix it. It'll be no big deal.
Right. We see the cloud cover has broken around Camelin. I'm convinced that's because Elaine's there and she's linked to Rand through the bond, and it's Rand's effect.
Absolutely. Does make me wonder what's going on where, well, I guess Avienda is either has been with Rand or is in the desert where there are no clouds. But how's the cloud cover over Min? Where's Min now? Oh, Min's with Rand.
Min's with Rand.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I would assume that if the three wives were all in different locations with cloud cover, there would be 3 hole punches in the cloud cover scattered across the continent.
Because it's veins of gold, right? And they're the veins of gold. And that's what broke the cloud cover in the first place. So, of course, his loves are going to be cloudless.
Because gold is sunlight, is connection through the sky, through the clouds of the Dark One, all that jazz.
Let there be light. The Dark One is dark, right?
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
It's an analogy, and it works on a lot of levels.
Yay!
Gold is Elaine's hair. Gold is Ilyena's hair.
Ilyena's sun hair, specifically. Let's see. Perrin gives Fael the lead in the diplomatic negotiations. Refuse is piling up in the streets. I'm not clear on why, now that the siege is over, but I guess just there's a lot of people there because end times. And then they go to the throne room by a different route than Fail remembers, and she wonders why. I'm assuming it's because the palace has rearranged itself. I'm assuming that that's why the route is different than she remembers. I don't think it's like a nefarious plot to confuse them about the route. I think literally just the old route doesn't exist anymore.
I think the refuge is just to point out that like the city is really full and they're just having a hard time handling all the numbers of people.
There's end times refugees. It's not siege specific anymore. Now it's just...
Yeah, exactly. Camelin is one of the few places that's safe anymore, that has food, right? So you have,
Okay. So it's just that.
all the refugees.
All
yeah.
right.
That's my belief about her. Not that like, oh, she can't manage the trash.
That was why I was confused. It's like I thought we were past that question, but no, you're right. Just the sheer population. Okay.
Because the sentence right before that is inside the walls, the streets teemed with people, the buildings and market packed.
Okay, yeah. So it's just that literally the municipal services are overwhelmed by the population. Yes. All right, fair enough.
So yeah, they're marching in. They get they take their big group and make it smaller, and then make it smaller still until it's just like, it's like every they start with 1,000, then they're down to 100, and then they just take the guards with them to see Elaine, and then they leave the guards behind, and this is this whole winnowing down until it's just like Perrin and his immediate friends and wife with Elaine.
It's what you do. You go, because this is not just about Perrin and Elaine talking about their feelings on politics. This is also about showing the entire population that can see that there is a powerful force paying respect to a larger institution. And so you have to bring a big giant train with you at first. And then as you get closer and closer to the actual conversation, you can shrink the stage and shrink the number of players until you're down to, the 6 most relevant people. And that's it. But it's theater. It's so much theater.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of funny to see between two characters who we, would think of as friends, right? Because they're two of the main characters. They're friends with all the same people, but they've never really met, right? Elaine and Perrin, as far as I know, this is when they are introduced for the first time.
Oh, they've met.
We did say, no, they've met. They've met. That's right. Because they met in Dragon Mount.
In Tyr?
The stone. Yeah, you lose some things over time, okay? You lose some reflexes. It's been a while since we've talked about the Stone of Tyr, but yeah.
Yeah, like 2 weeks since we went over this exact topic.
I know, shut
up. But yeah, we agreed then that they've never had a meaningful interaction. They've been in the room, right. They've been introduced, they've probably said hi at the line for punch at the company get-together, but they've never really talked politics or anything else for that matter. And they're not just coming together as individuals, right? They're coming together as leaders of groups with demands that they have to represent.
And I would say they have both changed significantly since their time in the Stone of Tyr. She's gone from spoiled, my mom will get you, to legitimate queen. And he's gone from shy, axe-wielding berserker to, leader of one of the biggest armies, in all of the lands.
And they've both dealt with a lot of really intense level ups in terms of responsibility for other people's deaths and how do I lead? How does my arrogance get in the way? They've both passed through a lot of different crucibles. So that way we as the readers are okay, I feel comfortable that they've both grown enough that this is going to be an adult conversation with a reasonable outcome.
Not to mention personal power-ups, right? The way she's a much more powerful channeler, the way he's got much more powerful dream-walking and Mahalanir now, and all those things where he's, and soon, teleportation.
And also, they're both married now.
Yeah.
They were both dating last time they hung out. They were both in the early stages of dating their eventual future spouse, but now they are both married.
It's really why I would have no problem stretching this series out over if it was written to cover a 10-year span rather than a 2-year span,
man. Yeah.
There's enough pauses where you can be and a year passed and things were relatively stable for a while. It would be hard to explain why, the Forsaken sat and did nothing for that long. And, some people can't just get lost in the wilderness for 10 years, right? They can for the 1 or 2 years that the book goes by. But, yeah, I would have no problem stretching it out just to, Because I think the characters change so much, it's hard to believe it all happens in the span of, less than 3 years.
Yeah. No, college is a wild whirlwind experience where you do grow a lot, but it is only a few years of your life. Like those events in these books, yeah, they could use a decade to breathe instead of just all being packed into a few semesters.
And it would give him a chance to solidify his rule over certain kingdoms before he went on to others. It would feel a little more realistic. And I get where magic and gateways shorten that time span quite a bit.
I like the part where, as they're walking through the hallways, Fael thinks about how when they were here before and Rand was here, Rand looked insane as hell.
Yeah.
That's back in book 6 when it's he hadn't even gone into the box yet, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, no, he was insane. From the outside, as someone who didn't know him and wasn't in his head, that man was bonkers at that point. Mm-hmm. No question.
That glimmer of madness, it was in his eyes, yet just...
Fael's a good enough reader of people. I think she's the most correct here. Not us who were debating, is he mad? I don't know. I don't think he's mad. No, Fael knows what's up. He was mad.
Well, and if he's got the dragon scepter, right, that's after Snow Igloo, which is, I think, after his trauma and after being in the box, right?
No.
No? It's before the box?
The igloo is so long before the box. The igloo is when he's still in the waste, and the box is way after he's come back out into the wetlands.
Oh, you're right.
Relativistic dating. It's the geology skill. So yeah, they go in there, and Morghese is hanging out in a clear advisory position next to Elaine. And then Alejandra makes sure to bow more deeply than Fael, right? Everyone's positioning themselves in a very specific kind of, it's not a pyramid legally, but it is a pyramid kind of shape. Everyone is literally physically showing with choreography how these power dynamics are going to work.
Right. They're all behind Perrin, essentially. And Perrin, they're all behind Fael, and Fael's with Perrin.
Well, no, Morghese is with Elaine.
Yes. Well, yes, obviously. But yes, but the rest of them. But it's so funny to see her on the opposite side of that, considering she's been with them for such a long time, serving them tea. And now she's sitting in this position of power on the other side of the aisle. And yeah, no, it is a little bit it feels a little betrayal, right? And I get that she advocates for them. But
it's not a betrayal. It's what she said she was going to do.
I know. But oh my God, it's just Morghese, you're very hard. And the separating the duty from what she did in hiding for them, I think I would have a hard time with that.
You're with Fael on feeling salty about it.
Yeah, I'm totally salty about it. Absolutely salty about it. 100%.
Yeah, I'm with Perrin. I'm I don't know. She did what she had to survive. It's fine. It's whatever. But I mean, you and Fael aren't wrong. It's just different emotional takeaways from the same facts. But she does speak up pretty aggressively in this. When the meeting is starting to spiral out, Morghese is the one who steps in and cools the problem.
Yeah, that does help quite a bit.
Yeah, Elaine's pissed that they used her as a servant. I think that's silly because that was literally her cover. What were you supposed to do? No, you're the Queen of Andor. I insist. No.
I don't think she's pissed so much as she's I can kind of use that in negotiation if I want to as this talking point.
And I'm just no, you can't.
No, it's
no. I reject that entire premise, Elaine. I don't think so. Fael and Seth are being too salty, but you are being too sea folky about this. Too Aes Sedai.
What do you think about when she gets the tray with the one power and Fael's a demonstration of strength? I think Elaine's just tired and doesn't want to walk over and pick up the tray.
I think it has more to do with that she's glad that in this moment she's able to hold the power.
Right.
Because she's has all
pregnant.
the struggles with pregnancy and her moods. And this is in her head. She's probably going, oh, yeah, my moods are cool. My control is good. I can channel. I'm just going to revel in the fact that I can channel and be calm for this meeting. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's a flex.
Okay. Do you think maybe that's Sanderson saying, hey, she's cool and calm, that she's not going to have a weird emotional fluctuation in this one because she's holding the power?
Maybe. That would be the logical conclusion from what I said, but also, I don't know.
Or do you think he just was doing something else with doing the power play thing and just didn't even think about how that would...
I don't know, actually. Metagaming at what Sanderson was trying to think there. I don't know.
And then there's this argument between Perrin and Elaine where she's you're rebelling. And he's like, yeah, we're not going to pay taxes because you don't help us. And it's not rebelling because you don't help us.
Yeah, and she's like, well, I wasn't out there because you didn't need me to be out there to keep you out of rebellion. And it's like, that is a solution in search of a problem, is what that is. You are saying that the only reason that you need to have a presence in a place is to control the people, not to... It's just... Her argument is so spurious. And in fairness, she does give it up pretty quickly. But yeah, she goes into this really, like, entitled. Like, she just expects Perrin to ask to be a lord, to be pardoned, and to start paying taxes, to be grateful, to be allowed to buy into the great and glorious civilization that is the nation that was abandoning them for the last 600 years and didn't even have the capacity to know that they needed military aid back in book 4. Right? Like, it's so entitled. And Perrin, in typical working class fashion, is like, that doesn't seem very reasonable. I feel like the workers should own the factory. You know, we have had the means of production seized for the past several centuries by virtue of you not being around. So why would we change that?
And then there was this thing from Fael that I thought was a little fourth wall breaking, where she's like, I wonder if Manetheren had to fall, if the two rivers had to rise to provide a place for Randall Thor to be raised among farmers with the blood.
Okay, Sanderson, now I do see you there, and I do need you to scrub your fingerprints a little more thoroughly off of that. That was too on the nose. The fourth wall serves a purpose, and you have proven why the fourth wall needs to exist with this comment.
When characters start talking about, like, what the pattern is doing, and that clearly is just like, oh, that's something the writer's doing, it feels, and they're not like an Aes Sedai talking about, like, the fate of a character in some ironic way, when they're actually, like, legitimately talking. I don't know, this feels very like, oh yeah, guess what? There had to be a prophecy that sent his mother off to the, you know, Shael, whatever her fucking original name is, Tigraine, off to the waste, so that there could be a war, so that there could be the right ruler in place, so that he could go to the waste. And it's just like, yes, we understand the history and the plot and the causation, right? Like, you don't need to spell it out.
Yeah. That was one of the fun things in Dune, is when they were like, hey, you know, this thing that's really obvious and dumb, let's just make that an entire reason to be more mad at the Bene Gesserit for existing. It's great. They lay that out.
But what do they lay out? I didn't catch the reference.
The entire prophecy of Muad'Dib and all of that, it was all seeded there by the Bene Gesserit, like, as just in case kind of plot. Like, they literally set it all up just in case someday someone needs to use it. And then Paul and Jessica show up, and Jessica's like, shit, all the pieces are here for me to put together one of these, you know, IKEA Messiah things. And, you know, I liked that take on it, where it was like, we're going to take that fourth wall and use it to build a fifth wall. But this is not that.
And the whole thing about that is there is some prophecy ability in the Bene Gesserit, right? So
it's true. Acid does let you see the future in that universe.
Yes, right. So, you know, there's some believable of, like, is it a prophecy that they made up and seeded, or is it something that they saw was going to happen and seeded it so that that person could rise to power? And they were creating that person, right? That was the whole point of the breeding program.
Yeah. Which we don't need to get all into the weirdness of Dune, but I'm just saying, when it comes to explaining prophecies, there is a right way to do it, and there is a not so right way to do it. This is the latter.
See, now I kind of want to get into the weirdness of Dune.
Look, I'm telling you, I can be seduced into starting any number of podcasts. It will be bad for my health, but I don't know how to stop.
Listen, the fear is the mind killer. Just more. Don't fear more podcasts. You can do more. Put your hand in the box.
Oh, my God.
Enjoy the pain.
Look, once this podcast is over. Okay, seriously. Back to the thing. So essentially, Fael proposes that we retcon that this was always a legitimate arrangement. And Elaine says, yes, and we can use Dragon Reborn Halo effect to justify anything else we need for the future. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's done. You can just do what you've been doing. But now there's a royal letterhead on the proclamation. And
I think they're talking about bringing nations together, right? And I think the 5 nations, right? Saldea, Giladon, Mayan, Andor, Cairhien.
And then the Two Rivers as a bonus, 6th. Because as we're going to see in the upcoming 2 chapters, right, the Pact of the Griffin is going to be necessary to counter the Shanshan Empire and its holdings, right? Like the Shanshan Empire got a lot of satellite states. So the resistance nations are going to need to also be in a coalition. So yeah, basically they're saying we come with a lot of connections, a lot of power, and we want to team up with you. All we want is a little bit of agency. And then you gain a lot of allies. And Elaine is very pragmatic and goes, yes, and I want to create an arranged marriage with children that aren't even conceived yet.
And Perrin's like, fuck no, I'm not that kind of person.
And Fael says, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. He's like, we don't have to force them, but we can encourage.
And Elaine is willing to let that be enough because, I mean, if you keep them in the same social class hanging out with each other, odds are they're going to pair up on their own.
Because, I mean, look at the lineage of these kids. Sun Throne, Andor, Saldaea, Two Rivers. I mean, that's an insane tract of land that spreads across the entire continent and basically splits it in half.
Right. Those kids are going to be having horseback riding lessons in summer camp together, regardless of if they have actual arranged marriages. Some of them are going to end up deciding to pair up. It's inevitable if you keep them, if there's enough kids and you can have a whole boatload of them, something politically productive will come out of that.
Mm-hmm. They settle on the Steward of the Two Rivers as a title for Perrin instead of some Grand Noble or whatever they were talking about before.
High Lord, whatever.
Lord, yeah.
It's just a way for him to have equal political standing with economic exceptions to the other Andoran lords. And then there's this really interesting line here about the royal houses of Andor will accept this, blah, blah, blah. We'll have him appoint Perrin's line as his stewards. Instead of capitulating the rebels within my borders, I'll be seen allowing the Dragon Reborn, the man I love, to elevate his good friend. And I'm like, at what point did we make it public knowledge that she loves the Dragon Reborn as part of just government state?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So if he's the man you love, how are you hiding the father of your children's identity?
Uh-huh. I feel like once they killed Mellar, they kind of had to go with, yeah, it's Rand.
But they didn't, because Elaine Fael literally rolls in there wondering about the identity of the father. Mellar's been dead for a hot minute by the time that this meeting happens.
No, and we did just see her tell her mother, oh, it's dragon, but we're not spreading it around. And it's okay.
Exactly. And I feel like you are spreading it around if you're going to, I guess maybe she means after the last battle, once people are worried about all of the details, it'll be fine to have. Right. I don't know. That just felt really premature and anachronistic to me.
It's once he's dead, I can just go ahead and tell everybody.
Yeah, exactly. The noble houses of Andor will be fine with the fact that my children are born from the Dragon Reborn. That's just a given. I'm like, I don't know. I thought that was weird and anachronistic feeling.
It does feel very circular logic, but I feel like that's the point. It's just circular logic to be we're just going to make this happen.
I just feel like that's a weird thing to say really blasé, after you've made such a recent deal of the fact that you're still keeping it secret. The man that you love is a secret. The Dragon Reborn is not the man that you love as far as your front-facing PR arm goes.
No, I agree. That feels like a plot hole. That feels like a plot hole where she just kind of forgets that, oh yeah, I'm keeping that a secret.
I don't know. That seems real odd to me.
But it feels like now that she's queen, now that the last battle is starting, now that her pretend, it's like that plot line ended. We're done with that. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Except
that it literally didn't. It literally didn't. So that's just a mistake. So they talk about taxes and how it's good not to execute Perrin. And then we get a little update on Egwene being Amyrlin. Just randomly by the by. Perrin's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, more follow through, more follow up, more talking about that. But
Perrin knows because I think he saw her in the World of Dreams being Amyrlin. Yeah,
exactly. And he just shrugs it off like it's not worth talking about. Come on, man. Come on. Shouldn't you be whatever?
He doesn't get why they're in the Wolf Dream. I don't know. He thinks it's his own place.
The entitlement is not only on Elaine's part.
No, it's just a weave.
Yeah. And so, yeah, then we get, to close this out, we get Elaine describing the whole, Egwene wants to prevent Rand from breaking the seals, so we're getting together a coalition to convince him about that. And Perrin does a very Eyes to Die thing and says, I think I can help with that. And we know later on, everyone is shocked when he's like, no, Rand's the one that's right. I came along to convince you all to listen to Rand.
Yeah. I think I can help prevent you from stopping him, basically, is what he's saying. Because he's like, no, I get it. You know, he takes it from the blacksmith point of view, right? You can't reforge a broken sword. You have to melt it down and start new.
Yeah, you don't tack weld a sword back together. You melt the whole thing down into liquid and start the fuck over. I mean, not that they have welding, but you know what I mean.
And that takes us to the Fort Tuana POV.
Yeah, POV over to North Korea. I mean, Shan-chan. I mean, technically it's Shan-chan on this side of the ocean, but you know what I mean. Ebudar.
So here's where I really feel like this is the Tuon from before she was kidnapped.
Yeah.
And we just lost all the character development that she had during that entire journey.
Well, when she upgraded, when she leveled up, she left all of her baggage behind.
It just drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that, like, why are we writing a character that doesn't exist anymore? This could be, like, copied and pasted into, book 7. And I would have believed it more.
It's like she literally underwent a personality change as part of becoming Empress, which, like...
Mm-hmm. Her and Elaine both.
Yeah. If they had the Crystal Throne here and she had gone through a literal Crystal Throne ceremony, I might be like, oh, maybe the mind control works multiple ways. But all we have is the pomp and circumstance to explain her change. And, of course, the author transition.
Right. Everybody kissing her ass, basically. But yeah, I feel like she was sort of understanding that Aes Sedai and Suldam are people too. And it's just like...
I don't know if she ever did. I honestly don't think she did. The way that she made comments at the end about enjoying her discussions with Satala Anan about the basic concept of human rights just made me question if she was doing anything more than playing nice with people she disagreed with. But I do agree that this feels like the Tuon that would have stepped off the boat if we had seen her more in her full position instead of being under the veil. But again, we've really never seen her out from under the veil. This is the thing, too, is like she was literally under the veil from the moment we met her until now. This is the first time we've seen her out from under the veil. So maybe it's not so much a regression of the writer as, I mean, it is regression of the writer, but maybe we can explain it more with, we never got to meet unveiled Tuon.
Fine.
Plus, she's leaning in. She's leaning into being Empress now, right? She used to be a free agent with a little bit of choice, and now she's wearing a dress that says the Empress is Shan-chan. She has to be lifted into her thing. Like, she's not questioning any of that. She's just falling into the thing she was trained to do since she was a child. So it's gonna be regressive because she doesn't care about personal growth. She just doesn't. I don't think she ever did. Even under Jordan's pen, I don't think she cared about anything other than playing the people around her for her own ends.
Mm-hmm. But we're back to her, like, relaxing by breaking Damane completely, like, just casually. That's how you relax, by breaking living women.
You relax by torturing people or just watching them get tortured. It's like you are the worst kind of oppressor. You enjoy watching people's spirits get broken, whether or not you're participating. Like, you are a deeply broken person who should probably just take a long walk off a short pier.
Well, and continuing the brokenness, just like, oh my God, like Matt and Beslin might actually not actively try and betray me. And then this whole scheme from Galgun about how he, like, hired a bunch of assassins to kill her and then killed them before they could kill him, and that's showing cunning but dedication but also ambition. And, like, I just don't understand these people who aren't trying to assassinate me. What? It's like, yeah, that's a deeply broken society.
Yeah, that needs to be burned down and started over. That is an irredeemable social structure that you have positioned yourself on top of. Like, literally, the concept of watching Damani being broken soothes her. Like, your nervous system is so warped. Your humanity is so in abeyance if this is what soothes you. Like, I've read a lot about how acts of racial violence in our actual United States history are, like, soothing to the nervous system of the perpetrators, which I find just incomprehensible, but I've read it enough times in enough context to believe that it's just something I can't wrap my head around rather than a fake thing. It's part of our national reckoning on our racist legacies that we don't understand how our nervous systems got fucked by perpetuating that violence for so long. And then here's Tuon, just like fucking living emblem of all that is wrong with that, wearing symbols of power, watching people being tortured for fun, but also needs to be lifted by her property into her chair because she's so bedecked with crap. I don't know. The crystallization of all that is wrong with the United States in Tuon, this tiny little black woman, just really gives me a lot of full psyche squicks in a lot of different ways.
Can I make it worse for you?
Please do.
The only reason I believe she's so awful is because we need to torture Elaida, aka Sufa, right? And because what does this book do to women? It imprisons and tortures them. It kills the men, bad guys, but the women get imprisoned and tortured. And we have to see that torture on screen. It has to be presented to us.
And Tuon's somehow not the bad guy. Tuon somehow escapes having any kind of punishment, any kind of retribution, even any kind of personality change. She just gets to be cool because she's a tiny little doll with super dark skin who enjoys slavery. It's weird. It's just this whole... And again, I wanted to see Elaida again after being taken. I wanted to see the impact of her bringing traveling to Shanshan. That was such a big, massive moment. I needed like one more little epilogue PS of payoff for that.
But I don't really feel like we get that because this is not the traveling.
Yeah.
It's not, she just opens gateway and sees a bald eagle, you know, like that's like, and takes that.
Which is a powerful omen, don't you know?
Yeah. Right.
Insert red-tailed hawk shriek here.
And then they just kind of have gateways like everybody else does, where they just kind of use them to go have meetings with each other, right? Like, and show up to the battlefield in the last battle.
I mean, it's handy, but they could have learned it any number of ways, right? As soon as they made alliance with Rand, that could have been like his olive branch is we'll give you traveling. And like that shows an amount of trust in you as allies. Like we didn't, yeah, this does not serve the purpose it should have served. But I also did, I mean, if you're going to steal Elaida and make her a Damani, I do want to see her as a Damani.
Mm-hmm.
Would have rather that she just, you know, managed to fall off the rockin' because she struggled so hard and that was her end. That would have been way better, you know? Like, I'd rather die than be a slave and she manages to achieve that, you know? That would have been great.
I would have loved if she was on one of the rockin' that Egwene fireballed.
And she had one final moment of gratitude to Egwene for saving her.
Yeah.
That would have been good.
As she, like, fell to her fiery death. Yeah.
And then there would have been a sense of a baton pass of, like, no, the new Amerlin saved the old Amerlin from, like, a fate worse than death. That would have been good. That would have been good. They could have found her body in the woods afterwards, you know?
Right. With the sort of schadenfreude of letting Egwene fucking fireball her enemy to death, right?
That would have been really cool. All the enemies at once. Also, no one ever mentioned having to deal with like burned, broken, rockin' bodies scattered across the plains nearby Tarvalin. Like, I don't think that she was vaporizing them. I think that there were like burnt and broken dragon bodies crashing down into the area. No one ever talks about that.
I mean, I'm assuming the warders had to take care of it and they don't get to, you know, complain.
No, I mean, like, off of the island. Like, once they had flown, like, far enough away, they would have been crashing down, like, out over the river. And, like...
Yeah, but then they probably just ended up in the river and swept downriver.
This is the origin of dinosaur bones.
You mean dragon bones?
I mean...
Or dinosaur bones?
Yeah, because dinosaurs aren't real, obviously. They're legends from Shanshan. They're shadow spawn.
I love the way Elaida is just like willing to give away other women's lives for her own. Just what a
That If you ever had a question of if she was an appropriate candidate to be Amyrlin, that's your proof she was a bad Amyrlin. She's like, I will give you 20 of my most powerful people in exchange for nope, you don't deserve to be Amyrlin. Egwene would have thrown herself into 1,000 pits of lava before beginning to utter those words. Egwene would never.
Especially because she has the Oathrod on her, so you know it's the truth, right? It's not like a bargaining technique or anything like that. It's 100% the truth.
Yeah, no, she is... I mean, it's the thing about brittleness, right? That's the thing with someone who's so strong that they're brittle, right? Once they break, they're broken. She was so sure of how right she was that now her brain pretzels are like, it is right for me to elevate myself above others in this way. It is right for me to survive at any cost, even the cost of betraying everything I stand for intellectually.
We get a name drop, her brother Halvate. I didn't look that up. Let me do that really quick.
Yeah, so apparently her brother enjoyed training Wild Grom like she enjoyed training Damani. I'm assuming this means he was something of a cowboy, like taming Mustangs kind of deal.
And Halvate is named for Matthew Halvate, fan of the Wheel of Time.
Oh, a fan of the Wheel of Time. Nice. And he died. In that sentence he was introduced in, we also learned that he died. He was assassinated.
Yes. This is his introduction and his death. So that's just a off-screen life and death reference to the brother of Tuon. But I guess that guy gets to say, I'm the brother of Tuon from now on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He does.
Your take on that. He does, I guess, if that's what he wants. I don't know. I wouldn't want that.
Tuon being a wildly problematic character, but it's a character.
She had so much potential to have a redemption arc and to stand up against the institutions that she is embroiled in a way that could have been so powerful. And Jordan and Sanderson just didn't have the courage to tackle that storyline.
No.
He's willing to call out Sean Chan's America with his freaking bald eagle, but he's not willing to go through the emancipation of the slaves.
Right? Yeah. Very performative American. We passed a law, so now we're in a post-racial society kind of approach to that. Yeah, it's disappointing. It's on brand for tall white men who are making it in American capitalism and Christianity. But you wish you could see something else. It's too bad no one other than tall white Christian men have ever written books.
Nope. I can't think of any other white Christian men who write fantasy or sci-fi.
I just can't think of any other authors. It's like I would read something else if something else existed, but there's nothing else to read. Sorry, guys, the cynicism spiral might have caught me a little hard.
Look, I think you're joking.
I am joking, but I'm also really depressed about the fact that we're a month into a war with Iran. So, sorry. Anyway, speaking of war, what else is happening in Shan-Chan?
They're realizing the explosion that they've been scared of this whole time, the secret weapon that Elaine created, was just like a freak accident.
Oh, yeah. That is like, they are so far behind the times, but it's kind of cute. Like, oh, you finally figured that out, huh? You finally figured that out. Okay. I mean, it's true, but it's funny. Like, that's so old. Like, they just chased down a Chekhov's gun so hard. Like, they just spent so much energy on a complete wild goose chase, and I love that for them.
But it was also one of the reasons that they kind of stopped advancing. It was sort of this idea that, like, oh my God, they're afraid of this weapon, and they therefore are going to secure themselves and not worry about advancing any further. It was holding them at bay a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good mistake. That's why I love that for them. Like, the wild goose chase helped our main cast not have to deal with as much Shan-Chan bullshit. And then, yeah, Beslan points out that traveling is really, really powerful. And Tuon says, we will use that to annihilate the White Tower. And then we never hear about that plan ever again. Which seems like a very weird loose thread to leave hanging.
Yep. Yes. I don't know what to say other than yes, that seems very weird.
Like, we talked about that before on recording, right? We did actually record that whole discussion.
Yes, I believe so.
It's very weird. It's given so much dun, dun, dun kind of energy, and then it just, there's nothing.
And then I feel like they go sign the Dragon's Peace, right? And I feel like that's, at that point, that she can't anymore. and honor her word.
Best I got.
But she could break it. She talks about breaking the dragon's peace. And then Matt comes along and is like, but come on, you gotta. And she's like, okay. And goes and rescues the White Tower.
Yeah, it feels like deciding to give up on taking down the White Tower should have merited at least a half a thought at some point.
Right. So if we missed it, like we'll come across it and we'll have to mea culpa.
Yeah. Eat crow.
And be like, oh, we just didn't read carefully enough. But like I feel like it's not in there.
Well, but as we've established, I have no reading comprehension. So, you know.
Somehow, your reading comprehension is great on the first 11 books, and then these last 3 books, you're just like, I don't know, I kind of skimmed them once, I guess.
It's embarrassing. I don't know how I'm supposed to study for the last book. Like,
it's hard. I'm definitely going to have to read it a couple of times. I think I've been pushing to take a little bit of a longer break before the last book, including maybe slipping New Spring in there. And that'll give us a chance to sort of review and maybe read that last book a couple of times.
I swear we love these books. We do.
We do. It's so funny that these were the conclusions. And it's like, you ever get that point where like you have a TV show you love, you watch it 100 times, and then the ending comes out, you watch it and you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. But you're like, I know this show so well, but I only watched the ending once or twice, and I can never remember what happens to all the characters at the end.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's happening here, where I'm like, I guess once you know what happens to the characters, there's a certain finality, and there's a certain amount of like, I don't need to go back and rehash the deaths over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. There's a certain amount of off into the sunset. My fanfic can just fuzz out that end. No, that it doesn't end. It doesn't end. There's just more content I haven't gotten to yet. I'll get to it eventually. You can kind of just trick yourself into that. Yeah, for sure. It's another reason to start another campaign of Baldur's Gate instead of actually completing Act 3. Just saying.
It's all about the journey, not the destination. So if we never get there, yeah.
Exactly. Though I will say I have actually finished that game once, and the emotional resonance was worth it. It was hard. It was really hard, but it was well written. I will give them that. It was a very well written ending. Well, at least the one ending I got. I guess there's like over 1,000, depending on how all the different characters go. But anyway,
I still need to get a computer powerful enough to run that.
Yeah, you should. And if you don't want to ever have any free time or brain space ever again. Oh my God, Sabanasai said that For All Mankind Season 5 premiered on Thursday. I did not know that because Apple TV doesn't want people to watch their content. But that's very exciting. Soap opera in space. Love it.
I don't know that one.
For All Mankind is a fun, it's very soapier than I could wish, but it's a fun alternate American history where the Russians beat us to the moon. And so our space program never got shut down.
Me about this.
Yeah, I've told you. Yeah. It's really, really fun. There's just some really weird soap opera level plots in it. But I'm very jazzed that season 5 is premiering, and I'm being told by a friend because Apple does not want you to watch their content. The concept of promoting their content like gives them an allergic reaction. They just don't want you to know that they're making interesting TV at all. All right, so final POV of the chapter is some of the reunion energy that we wanted done almost good enough to not make me want to throw the book.
It's certainly better than the easing the badger scene that I thought was eye-rollingly bad. You know, this I wouldn't call this good, but this is like...
I think having Tom here helps.
Yeah. This is acceptable reunion level banter. Even if some of the banter is corny and clearly written by, you know, a very tired Sanderson.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's really, it's Sanderson level humor, which he's just not very. I wouldn't even say it's not so much that it's clever. It's again that he's written so much that I've seen this humor over and over and over again, and it's not that unique anymore.
But I really like Tom's participation in this when. Parents say, wow, Matt's married. Matt says, you didn't have to tell him that part. Tom says, oh, I assure you, I did.
That was good. Okay. That was good.
That was good. In character. I could hear the intonation, the bassiness of his voice. Like that that moment really, like, I think Tom really helps here. I think that Sanderson has an easier time writing Tom than the boys, because Tom is
100%.
a farther back character. He's more of an archetype. He's an older character, whereas Perrin and Matt, it's the boys. I gotta do all this stuff, you know.
It's like I have to have every trope in one scene all at the same time, and they just don't get up to relax. And Matt feels like an ADHD version of himself, where he's just like bouncing all over the place, instead of the Matt that has come to chill out quite a bit and relax quite a bit and is much more stoic than the Matt in the beginning, I feel like.
Right. Perrin shows some growth here, though. Perrin is, I mean, because at this point, Sanderson's much more comfortable with writing Perrin, I think, because he's written so much of Perrin's growth under his own pen. So yeah, this scene is closer to the reunion energy that we were looking for, I think. And we have another very famous name drop in this little section here.
Yes. Yeah. At the Happy Throng, we have Denzel, which, you know, is 100% based on Jason Denzel, a fan of the Wheel of Time. You know, but a very special fan of the Wheel of Time, both because he runs Dragonmount, which was, you know, back then, right, Dragonmount was Jason Denzel, and I believe Theoryland was Matt Hatch. So these are the two towers of midnight of the fandom.
Yeah. Towers.
Towers. They're both very tall
They're
men.
Towering men. They were doing the fandom, the online fandom work before the books were done. Right? Most of the fandom comes into existence after the books are completed. These guys were there first.
Yeah, these are the old school. These are the people who kind of started Jordan Con and the sort of the original con scene. Now, there are other people involved who were part of the fandoms who did a lot of the work. I don't want to, say it was just these two men who did all the work. And the other reason why, Jason Denzel, I hold him dear to our heart, because he basically posted the first, when I put up the first episode on Reddit, he saw that and sent out a tweet to basically everyone who was part of Dragonmount saying, hey, here's a Wheel of Time podcast. You guys should check it out. And that was probably by far our first big bump. And the first time I realized there was going to be more than a passing interest in this content. And, between that and following people on Instagram is, I think, how we got our initial following. And, we definitely have grown and shrunk with people since then. But that was sort of the core group that existed in the beginning, who created the initial live following, who created the initial downloads, and who got us, going. And we're the beta testers for everything that we had to figure out in the beginning with the communication and the microphones and all that kind of stuff. So, huge shout out to Jason, because, I think he could be considered the grandfather of this podcast, right? Because he sort of provided a little bit of the initial seed that got us going into the fandom.
Like initial springboard into finding people.
Yeah, the springboard that got us going, for sure.
And I think that's part of why, I've always wanted to make sure that we do as much cross-pollination and uplift of our fellow people in the fandom as possible, because that's the reason that this podcast got where it did, was because of a fellow person in the fandom being like, hey, you're making content. I want to uplift that and make it go places. Yeah, I think that's a really important part of what makes this fandom awesome socially and creatively. And it's nice to see that Denzel here is not just some random character that gets thrown away. He is, much like Innkeeper Hatch, the owner of an inn that has a lot of like other little bits of hat tips and structure to it that says that like this is more than just a red shirt, right? This is a really important person in the fandom. This is not just someone who donated. This is someone who like made the fandom and thus the experience of finishing these books what it is.
And it's like the carved wooden sign hung outside the window, dripping with rainwater. It depicted faces wearing strange hats and exaggerated smiles. The Happy Throng. There was probably a story behind the name. That's the fandom. That's the fandom of Dragonmount has been described as the Happy Throng. I think it's so neat the way that was incorporated. I think that was well done, and just the way we have the connection. Well, not that it's just I love the fandom. I love the fandom. I think it's great. I think it's great that he included some of it. Some of it's a little ham-fisted, but
I mean,
this is
here
good.
He talks about him being all but dragon sworn and having a portrait of Rand commissioned, and it's like these are rabid fans. Rabid fans. You come to this man's house, you are aware of his love of the Wheel of Time. Or you come to this man's bar, you're aware of his love of the Dragon Reborn. Either way.
Yeah, and what's funny is that initial fandom ended up just being a small percentage.
And even the physical description is of him, a lean man with his head kept shaved. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
The name is enough, but yeah, again, much like with
It's
Matt
definitely
Hatch,
Jason.
it's like
Yeah.
there's 0% chance of this being anyone else.
They talk about Varen a little bit. They haven't seen her in over 2 weeks now because she's dead.
So dead.
So very
And
dead.
buried, or whatever it is that got done with her body. We literally don't know.
Maybe she's alive and talking to Avienda in her dream. No,
She did.
she did. And, Matt's like, she's worried something might happen to her. Yeah, something happened to her.
He was correct that she was worried something would happen to her. She was very much giving those letters out as a contingency in case she couldn't get back in a few hours. A few hours. That was what she was hoping for. It's been weeks now.
So they're basically hanging around until Grady walks in and goes, "Yo, it's midnight. Your wife wanted me to tell you." Which again, I don't really like the wife bad humor here.
Did not enjoy that. Well, your wife asked me to remind you. So you have a whole ass human being operating as an alarm clock nag for the wife, because wives be like that. Am I right? Yeah, super annoying.
Yeah, that was not my favorite humor right there. I was just like, come on.
Yeah, Perrin can't be trusted to come home on his own because boys, am I right?
And he's hanging out with Matt, and Matt's so irresponsible, and he's the known irresponsible one who's going to keep him up late and out late, and he needs his sleep. And yeah,
They're up drinking because they just don't know what's good for them. But women know what's good for them. Women have discipline. Yeah.
yeah, I got the same feeling. I was just like, okay, anyway, moving on.
And then we get this whole analogy story about a quote-unquote group of savages, which, not a fan of that term, but it's this whole weird little analogy story that Tom gets to tell and that Matt gets to corroborate with war memories about how sometimes being a leader who's really obvious about being a leader is dangerous because you have a target painted on your back, and we needed a page and a half to say that.
It's sort of, I'm half convinced the only reason you survived this long is because the Forsaken don't know where to find you, which is kind of half true.
Like a quarter true.
Mostly they just didn't know they were targets, right? Like,
Yeah.
really only, I think, Lanfear and Ishmael knew what they looked like or who they were. Because they were the ones who would track the Taviran. They were tracking Rand by being Taviran, so of course they'd be able to find other Taviran as well and know they were important. But I don't think any of the other Forsaken knew. Which is funny because a bunch of the Dark Friends knew because Ishmael told them. But then that didn't go back, which just, that's how much the Dark Friend organization was under Ishmael only and not the Forsaken. It really was. That's why, like, Lanfear always called them fools, because they worshipped Ishmael, not the Dark One. I feel like that got changed a little bit after book 3 or book 4, where like then now the Dark Ones are just all, or just Ishmael was able to transfer that worship up to the Dark One very easily.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of weird holes and retcons in how information traveled behind the scenes amongst all the bad guys.
Sure.
And yeah, there's so many times when Forsaken know where they are, right? Like Moghedian knew where a lot of these guys were for a while. Asmodean was there in the camp with them for a long time. But again, Tom doesn't know all of it. His supposition is not incorrect given the information he has.
And I think at various points in time, these boys have been wanted to be killed. And I think that, but not all the time, and not by all the Forsaken.
Right, yeah. The Forsaken are not a monolith, which is, again, something that someone like Tom is not privy to all the information necessary to have that nuance.
So then I think I have Matt asking for a gateway, which gets Tom all excited because, of course, he wants to rescue Moraine because he's all very excited to rescue Moraine.
Can't imagine why.
Fine-looking woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's this other ham-fisted part where Perrin's like, I'm slightly smart. And Matt says, you're so devious now. You've changed. And Perrin's like, I'll try to take that as a compliment. And that's the banter that feels weird. That's banter that feels like I know what it was trying to do, and it's so yeah. Let's skip ahead to being excited about Moraine.
It's like the ribbing your friends give you, but that was never really their relationship.
Certainly not on the page. We needed to see it on the page in order for it to feel like a callback.
Like there was maybe a little bit in the beginning where like I think Matt said something and Perrin like blushed in the early books.
Yeah, in like the first quarter of the first book, like it's not a meaningful callback. Easing the Badger was a callback that was done so badly it also doesn't work, but like it's just whatever. So yeah, Matt does this very weird ADHD Matt thing of saying, yeah, we need a gateway for important stuff. Oh, I guess I should explain. Like, he was just gonna like ask for it and move on, and then Perrin asks one follow-up question. I was like, okay, well, let me give you the whole story. And I'm just like, I don't know, dude. I feel like you should have led with that for the evening catch-up. You know? That feels like a weird thing to do as you're collecting your coats, is to mention that Moraine's alive.
I also think it's funny that like they spent so long trying to figure out where the Tower of Genjai is, and there's like this whole prophecy about it that they had to use to figure out who to ask, and like it's the parents like, oh yeah, I remember that, it's over there.
I know,
it's just
right?
Like, why did you just ask Perrin? Like, okay, Perrin. Wait, no, Perrin wasn't on the boat. Why does Perrin know?
Perrin saw it because he woke up in Teleron Riyadh leaning against it one time.
Didn't he follow Slayer to it as well?
Yeah.
And Slayer tried to trap him with it?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
He interacted with it in Teleron Riyadh, and he got a lot of the information from Birgitta, who is also the same source of information that Matt has, right? They're both getting information from Birgitta, just at different points in the timeline.
Got it. That's right.
But yeah, it is really funny how it's like every time that Matt tells anyone from his life about it, they're like, oh yeah, I know about that. Meanwhile, he's running around going to like soothsayers and strangers and random old books trying to figure it out. And it's like literally everyone you've ever met in your life has some actual lived connection to it.
The pattern being like, it's over there. You just ask your friend. No, don't ask the see there. It's ask the boat driver. No, don't ask the fuck. Okay, fine. Ask the little kid you've been raising. At least he might be able to point you in the right fucking direction.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to have him play the game in front of you over and over and over and over again. And maybe, Matt, you might get the hint.
Yeah. And so then, with that, they decide that actually wives can just go suck a fuck, and they're going to sit down and drink more wine and talk about the story. And it doesn't matter that the nagging wife is going to be upset, because you can tell the alarm clock to tell the wife to go shove it, and it'll be fine. That's the chapter. Don't know if you want to actually do a readout there.
Not particularly.
Okay, cool. So there you go. That was a long and meaty chapter that did not merit getting a read-in or a readout, because we're snobs at What Spoilers.
You know, if it set the scene, like I like the read-ins that set the scene or didn't introduce you to a character, but a lot of these are just like boring descriptions of things that I don't even know. I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you what the beginnings of these are even.
Yeah, I think it might just be a writing style thing that Jordan liked to open and close his chapters with a little more aplomb than Sanderson does, which might just be a stylistic thing. But for our purposes, we do a lot less read-ins and readouts now that we're in the Sanderson books.
I think there's a difference in prose quality. I really do.
I'm starting to get real anxiety about what happens in a year when these books are over. I'm starting to get real anxious about it.
And why? Just in terms of like, this is something that you've done.
What am I going to do with my... Yes, exactly. What am I going to do with my time and my energy? And like, who am I going to yell about with books with on a regular basis?
I mean, that's why we're doing Dungeon Crawler Carl.
It is. But this has been here for so long. This has been here since before I changed majors, right? I've been doing this since before I changed majors. Like, this is a really big part of my life. And it's giving me anxiety to get near the end of the second to last book. Mm-hmm. Last book is going to be a problem.
No, I'm there with you. I'm feeling it, right? Like I'm feeling that like weirdness and that like uncertainty, and like that's why I want to take a big break. That's why I want to do New Spring, right? Yeah, and our current plan is to, because the New Spring chapters are pretty short, we're gonna try and do, I think, the 5 at a time, 5 per episode, and just do like big long episodes until we do 5 and get it done in like I think 5 weeks.
Yeah, we're going to take a Jordan retrospective bounce back between books. Yeah, do it in 4 or 5 episodes. And that will be our...
5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, that's going to be our side quest before we actually do Memory of Light.
Right. And then I will probably also push to take, I think we're also planning on like a month off of just no recording, just to like, yeah.
Yeah, we got some other life stuff to do and breathers between the books. The summer's going to be a little bit different for release stuff, but we still have the rest of spring to get through that we literally just started. Welcome to spring, everyone. Hope you enjoyed whatever your cultural and regional holiday for the seasonal transition was. I hope that you enjoyed the snacks and the family gatherings, and happy fall to everyone, down below in the fake continent.
The upside down, the down under.
But yeah, I think I'm ready to close this recording out, take a little break, and then go do the new podcast that I'm not anxious about ending because it's only just beginning.
Yeah, I think we'll get started on that. But yeah, I guess this is a good time to shout out, hey, if you like what we're doing here at Wheel of Time Spoilers, and you've been listening to us for 500 plus episodes at this point, please come enjoy what we're doing with Dungeon Crawler Carl. We're just having a lot of fun with it. They're really easy to consume episodes. We're keeping them under an hour. Yeah, I think that's the way I think you can ease Aradia's anxiety about the Wheel of Time Spoilers ending. Come support us in Dungeon Crawler Carl if you feel bad for Aradia, which you should.
I'm not even going to fight it.
Come listen to our other podcast. That's my plug.
Yeah, do it for my mental health.
Yeah, it's for Aradia's mental health.
Which means if you don't do it, I'm going to assume that you hate me and want my mental health to go in the toilet. So congratulations.
Don't make Aradia cry. Support our Dungeon Crawler Carl podcast. Podcast at Donut.
Bye.
Here from Fox and Raven Media. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.